let's talk a little bit about the purpose of government, about small government, which of course is a common refrain. Many on the right want smaller government, and I mean certainly many people across the political spectrum can see some of the purpose for that. I mean, I think back to the days of Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. I mean, they would make deals, and Tip would fight very hard to maintain as much spending as possible, and Reagan wanted to cut as much as possible and have tax cuts, which of course he did have. But I mean, there's a balance there. I mean, I think that many of us who do consider themselves more centrist can admit, okay, there's some logic in having a smaller government, less waste, but you need social safety nets. You need to help people who need help. You need to protect
security
people.
Security is top priority.
I know, I understand, but what I'm saying is people's security is more than just military. I mean, there's security they have with food security, healthcare security. There's things that we need as people in the country. So is it possible to cut too much is my question.
At this point? Mm-hmm. We have a lot of waste.
Well, like what is SNAP waste in your mind?
It depends on actually how you define SNAP and who is receiving SNAP. I do believe that within SNAP there is a great deal of waste, abuse, and fraud. And so when I say crush corruption in my platform, that would go across the board to crushing corruption and reducing waste in terms of fraud. In terms of inappropriate use by people who are not legally here, and otherwise. There are people who are on SNAP who need a hand up. They aren't taking this for a handout. There's a big difference, and it was put there for a purpose.
Yeah, and we just saw today that, and this is going to get recorded in the future, and there's a couple things coming down, or we're going to air this in the future.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And of course, tomorrow is the big deadline for Trump to speak on the Iran issue. Mm-hmm. But today, he's also asking that $15 billion be cut out of the budget that's already been done and signed. And one of those things he wants cut out is the children's health insurance program, something that got a lot of pushback. And
bipartisan pushback.
Mm-hmm. When we talk about those sort of things, but in the new farm bill, we see that there is loads of money available for wealthy farmers. In fact, 60,000 farms takes over 40% of the farm bill subsidies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when we look at that corruption and that some of those things, I mean, where is it that we want to cut? Do we want to allow nieces, nephews, and cousins to have access to hundreds of thousands of dollars in farm subsidies when they do not work on a farm or never lifted a finger on the farm? Or do we want to give that money to children's health insurance program?
It's unclear. I mean, I've read a lot of policy, but it's unclear to me where some of this information is coming from. For example, when we look at the omnibus bill, this ginormous, bloated omnibus bill that came through, who wrote most of that?
Lobbyists.
So the question would be, why are some of these initiatives being funded? What is the purpose? What is their role? How much of it is waste? How much of it is part of that lobby arm? And what is essential to serve the American people in the best and most appropriate way possible? And for me to just weigh in unilaterally and just tell you, oh no, we need to fund this, we need to fund that. I'm not in the United States Senate, and I don't know what's going on in the back rooms. Mm-hmm. I know that they make deals. I know they lump bills. I would like to get rid of what we call piggybacking, because what they do is they write a bill and then they stuff something in the bill that somebody's pet project, whatever it might be. I would like the American people to be served with clean bills that they can read and understand and know really what's been going on. The lobbyists have taken far more control than they should be able to be allowed to have. And we're ending up in a position where we're wondering, well, wait, why aren't we feeding our children? Why are we subsidizing farms? There are a lot of questions there, and some of which I can't just give you the answer right now. But the one thing I do know is that these lobbyists hold a lot of weight Why are our farms suffering? Why do they need subsidy? This is Americans' vitalization, right there is their ability to feed their family. I look at the farmers in the Central Valley here in California who can't get the water they need to grow food. Okay, food. It's not wasting water. It's growing food for the American people. And so just the whole big picture of what we see is distorted right now. What I would like to know is what's really going on in the back rooms, what's going on in the United States Senate and in these certain areas, and really see and understand what that lobby is, because it's I believe there's a lot more than you and I actually know about.
I guess, and I kind of asked my question wrong, but thank you for that. Was a very good answer for that. I guess what I'm saying, if you have somebody that comes to you and makes a deal, and you take the deal, but then a couple weeks later they come back and they want to do the deal again, and we're not only seeing this in the House of Representatives, we're seeing this in the Iran deal, and we're seeing this in China. We're gonna have tariffs, then the next day we're not. Then the next day we're going to have tariffs on Mexico. Then the next day we're not. At what point do we become a discredited broker? And I like Trump's style. He likes to put out the balloon and kind of try to work for the best deal.
Know about, okay, and this is why you won't hear me talking about Syria. You won't hear me talking about war. Or the kinetic activity, as Obama loved to call it, kinetic activity, that's been going on around the globe, because there are certain elements that you and me, we just are not privy to. Doesn't matter how many news articles you read. It doesn't matter where your news source is. If you read every single one, I'm going to tell you, you are not getting the whole story. And I'm going to tell you that this is why I do not weigh in on some of those issues, because I believe there's a lot that the American people just are not aware of. And this is another reason why I'm running for U.S. Senate, because the people deserve to be represented, to have an actual voice, and to know what's been going on. And I have to tell you, what we see probably with Donald Trump is indicative of what's going on out there, and that he's doing his best job to mitigate whatever it is that's going on that maybe we don't know about, and to offer us the best solutions. And it may look like, a discredited broker, or at one point you said, at what point do we become a discredited broker? But at what point don't we start and stop fighting for what is good and right for the American people? Because when America benefits, the world benefits, is really what it comes down to. And we have to safeguard our processes, our policies, our laws. And that's, I believe, what Trump is trying to work forward and do. And unfortunately, I don't think that had been done very graciously through the Obama presidency. It was leading, many people called it leading from behind. But really, I see it as bad deals were made, which undermined our nation and our populace and the U.S. taxpayer. So Trump is trying to help, cure the equilibrium and bring us on target and on base, and it's not going to be comfortable.
Well, but I mean, the converse that you say there is true as well. I think that you're right. When America does well, the world does well. But when the world does well, America does well also. It's an interrelated system.
Right, but when you're working from a position of regulatory abuse, where we have, for example, here in California, we have OSHA, okay, for safety and regulation. We have Cal OSHA, which goes many steps further for regulatory, regulations. And I have to say that in many other countries, they don't have the types of regulations that we have, and their costs are far, far lower. And sure, we are able to buy things far cheaper, but there's, I remember an echo when Obama said we need to we need to level the playing field. Well, I've now heard President Donald Trump use that same saying. We need to level the playing field, because Americans have been cut short in a lot of cases, and some of these large countries like China have been abusing the process and taking advantage. And so, is it bad for us to want equality?